Hello, dear friends. We are starting with our Aries 2026 prediction. This will be for everyone who has their sun or ascendant in Aries, but also if you have any planets in Aries, this could help as well. So, which are the most important astrology events during 2026? The most important is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. So we are going to start from there. This will be really, really important for this sign. Also, we will talk about the outer planets in general because they are forming a really beautiful bisextile, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And we will find out in which life areas this will be positioned for Aries. So, in other words, where you can experience those major transformative opportunities. We'll talk about Jupiter moving from Cancer to Leo, and also the lunar nodes, which will be in Pisces, Virgo, and then they will shift to Aquarius and Leo. So basically, we will have this interesting combination of having South Node and Jupiter at the same place. And also, we will talk about Venus retrograde. Always important to know about Venus retrograde. It will happen this year. And Lilith, the black moon, which will be in Sagittarius and Capricorn. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. At the end, I will answer your questions, of course. So let's start with Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune will move to Aries very early, around January and February. Neptune is first during January, and during February, Saturn will join as well. And this combination is very, very specific. Both of the planets are kind of like related to some kind of passiveness, to holding on to some things, but at the same time, they are not really friends with each other. They want completely different things. Saturn wants to put the boundaries to make things very clear, very concrete, and Neptune blurs things and makes them more chaotic, also more inspiring, more intuitive. And it really feels like, Saturn is pushing for the logic and the common sense. Neptune, on the other side, is pulling us more towards the intuition and also the possible chaos. And for Aries, all of this will happen in first house. This is especially important if you have your sun, rising sign, or any other planet in the first few degrees of the sign, because that's where they will meet together. And Saturn will also stay in Aries. Basically, it will get to the 15th degree. So it's especially important for people who are born in the first half or have their ascendant within the first 15 or 16 degrees. Then this will play an even more important role for you. And how to prepare for such a specific combination? First of all, the focus must be on you. So it's especially with Saturn, it's really important to look into yourself and to try to take more responsibility for whatever happens in your life. And it could be tricky because Neptune can make it seem like things are just happening and, something comes from the outside or it's about other people. So it might be more difficult to look into yourself honestly. But that's exactly what you should try to do. So, to get rid of all illusions or fantasies, or also from the fear of looking at the truth, and instead to try to define, to see, to feel things as they are, mostly about yourself, your actions, your initiatives, your behavior, basically everything which you are creating in your life and everything that happens in your life in general. The more you can look from this perspective, where is my responsibility, or what have I done here? Or sometimes it could be the opposite. What is it that I didn't do that also brought some kind of situation or changed things in certain way? So to pay attention to both your actions and also your passiveness, and what are the consequences of that? Where is this leading you? What is happening? What is coming out of this? And this is, well, not such an easy lesson. But on the other side, for Aries, I think that it could be a good lesson. And Aries is a really independent sign. Aries is a sign which likes to decide things and take things into their own hands. And from this perspective, you may feel like, okay, if I really take this responsibility, then also it means that more things really depend on me. That's the thing about responsibility and Saturn, that it's not just about the heaviness or, the hard work or the responsibility. You get control over your own life, over the things that you experience. And this is one of the most important themes during 2026, to look into yourself and to try to take more control over your own life and your own actions. And with Neptune, things may seem more difficult to define. Sometimes they may seem more confusing, more unclear. And right before that, so at the very beginning of the year, basically, when the two planets are still in Pisces in your 12th house, it's a great time to complete, to finish, to really kind of like let something go out of your life, if of course it makes sense. So the very beginning of the year is more about completion. And after that, especially from February, when the two planets are already in your first house, it's time for the new beginning. And another interesting perspective is that, of course, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. We know this. And symbolically, every new process begins from Aries, from the first sign of the zodiac. And this applies also to collective processes, mundane processes that affect all of us. And when we have such an important conjunction in the very first degrees of the zodiac in your sign of Aries, it also indicates that collectively something can begin, something really important. We did have the same conjunction in 2025, but it was more like, like the first signs for something, or kind of like a hint in certain direction, because it was not the final movement of the planets. After that, they went back to Pisces, and basically 2026 begins with Saturn and Neptune still in Pisces. And January, February, they finally moved to Aries, which means that this new beginning officially comes. And what that means is also that you can initiate, or you could be also like the source of something new. It doesn't mean that everyone will create something that would be relevant to all of us or to humanity. Of course not. But you may start something, first of all, for yourself in your own life. Put the beginning of something. And both of the planets are pretty slow. So this is not about something that will bring you immediate results in 2 weeks and you can just forget about it. This is more about planting the seed with your actions, not with passiveness, with your actions. And that's why the last phase, so basically when Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces, this could be a great time to listen more to your intuition, because the first impulse comes in Aries. This is the beginning when something starts growing. But this first impulse always comes from the previous sign, in your case from Pisces, which means that it comes from the subconsciousness, from something deeper. It could be also something collective. So the very beginning of the year is great for slowing down a little bit, listening to yourself and to any new ideas, desires, even memories that may come to your mind. And after that, try to focus on new actions. That's the most important. Generally, for Aries, this is always something major. That's how you express in this life. Your ruler is Mars, the planet of personal initiative, personal action, and braveness and courage. So when Saturn and Neptune join together in your first house, the main question is also to focus on the new actions that you want to take or you think would be smart to take. So the personal initiative is basically the most important. What could be some other ways to work with such a transit? Definitely you need to slow down. Saturn and Neptune are, at least for that, they are, I think, in some kind of alignment, that they don't like rushing things. Neptune can be too kind of like dreamy, passive, and detached from reality. Saturn is very cautious, slow, and sometimes also bringing fears. So in every case, it's not the time for risky, sudden moves. Instead, it's much better to definitely slow down, focus on your intuition, on your desires, and also making sure that what you are gonna take is basically to think about the result. What would be the result from your actions? And that's what sometimes slows people down when Saturn is affecting them, because they start recognizing more that what they do matters. I will share a personal story here. Recently, I started a very interesting experiment in which I'm using astrology and GSR. GSR is a method for working with the subconscious mind. And probably at some point, I will tell you all about this experiment. I will share how you can do it if you want to as well. But the idea was that I'm working on each of the signs one after another, because basically they represent a cycle of development from Aries to Pisces, or a cycle of life. And I'm doing it in a specific way. Decided just to start at some point. And my first week was about the Aries energy. So that's what I was working with. And honestly, it was tough for me, because such things happened in reality, but also I was able, kind of like to see them, which literally showed me that every single action and decision and choice I'm making has some kind of impact. Yes, not everything changes your whole life, but everything matters. And for me, this was the very impressive. For personal reasons, I have too much water, Neptune, and I see things differently. But this was like a huge lesson, and it is really important for your sign. That's why I'm sharing this story. For Aries, the more you recognize this, that every single choice you make, it could be a choice to do something or not to do, it's always a choice. And in every case, it has an impact and it brings some kind of results in your life. And some results you may see in years, doesn't matter. It's still, actually, if you see them in years, usually they are even more intense and represent something even bigger. So I think that for your sign, this will be a theme of the year. And the more you open up your eyes for that, because truth be told, Aries sometimes can be reckless, if especially if this energy is strong in you. It could be too much about the impulse, the desire, the enthusiasm, the competition, all of those things. And in the midst of all of that, you might forget to look long term or to see that each of those actions that you take impulsively or recklessly or courageously or in whatever way, they all have some kind of impact on your life. Through this, you are creating your own reality. We all are doing this only through our actions, or lack of actions also works. And Saturn in first house is really like knocking on the door and asking you to see that, to, like look at things the way they are. And one of the, or some of the main things that really help with Saturn is the courage. This is something Aries likes, the courage to look at the truth, how things really are, not how you wish or hope them to be, but how they really are. And this type of objective perspective is really, really needed. Saturn really helps with that. And sometimes people are kind of afraid of Saturn, or they expect something really difficult, or they are scared. But you know why Saturn sometimes may feel challenging, really? Uh, because it shows us how things really are. And this is sometimes kind of like hard to get, because we may feel like, oh, now something got worse. But if you look from a bigger perspective, especially if you can look into your life, after a while, after some years, you will see that things never start at the moment when you feel bad or when you feel like, oh, everything went worse. They always start before that. The question is, are we ignoring it? And often we might ignore things, postpone something, delay, procrastinate, not take the responsibility. Well, it depends on the situation. My point is that very often, I won't say 100% of the cases, but very often, Saturn is just showing you things that were there in your life, but you were ignoring them. It's just that when Saturn, visits you in some way, it gets more difficult to ignore things. You kind of like, you see the truth more, but you see things that have started earlier. So this is also an interesting perspective, that it's not, the root is not at the moment. The root is always somewhere in the past, when we chose something, or we didn't choose, or we did or we didn't do. And all of this has a, like a multiplication effect on our lives. So the more we can look from this perspective also, and what is the key here? It's very interesting. When you recognize this, that it didn't become terrible at this moment. If something feels terrible right now, or when Saturn kicks in, it means that it has started, or the root is somewhere in the past. You have just kind of like ignored it, or you made such choices. But if you don't see it, you may feel more like a victim, or more like things just happen out of the blue. You can never rely on things. Life is so unpredictable. And sometimes life may really be unpredictable. That's also true. But in most cases, we lead things to certain direction or outcome long before things unfold or blow up or whatever happens. And if we have the braveness, the courage to see that, we get the sense of having more control, because we really have more control than we think we do. And when you recognize, okay, now it feels difficult, whatever, maybe you have ignored your diet or your health or your relationship, whatever it might be. And when you see that, okay, this didn't just come out of nowhere, it was kind of like I was actually leading to this. You realize that you can also change more things. In other words, also more responsibility. But the first thing is the honesty with ourselves. And then again, things don't seem so scary or so negative. And Saturn can feel actually pretty nice for people who want the responsibility at work, in your business, or you want to start something new on your own. Uh, there is no other way. You really need to take this responsibility if you want to do it yourself. So, in a way, it can bring some kind of independence also. And it can disconnect us from certain things in our life, sometimes people also. The first sign, I mean, your ascendant or your sun sign, is also related to your vitality, your body. From this perspective, could be about your health. So it's also a great time to concentrate more on your body and how you take care of it, and in what kind of shape you are, what is your physical activity, and to do something. And the more disciplined you are, the better it is for Saturn. So if you want to lose some weight, if you want to get into a better shape, uh, Saturn in first house can be really helpful for that. Sometimes here there is another moment that Saturn really likes the efficiency and doesn't like wasting the energy recklessly. So if you have been kind of like, basically wasting your energy with certain things, Saturn may feel a bit restrictive. Like now you don't have so much energy for absolutely everything. And this is like pushing you to learn to become more efficient. You know how, okay, also a personal example. One of my grandmothers was chronically sick. She had a heart condition from a very early age, 20 years old. And it was quite serious. Also, you can imagine back in those days, the prognosis was not really nice for her. She was also a doctor herself, and she had Saturn in conjunction with her sun, by the way. And what she did was that she became really mindful of how she spends her energy. And it was really admirable, in my opinion. At the same time, I remember her how her house was always clean, organized, everything was at the right place, everything felt really nice. And she was able to do that even though she had honestly very little physical energy, but she just learned how to do it in a very efficient way without any extra unnecessary actions, also in a very good rhythm, because you can't just leave it for 3 weeks and then try to do and to compensate. When you have little energy, this doesn't work. When you have little energy, you have to learn to make small steps, but more regularly. This is Saturn, not just one explosion of extreme effort once in a while. This will not work. If you have little energy, this will exhaust you more. If you suffer from exhaustion, burnout, but physically you are in such a phase, we all have such phases. That's normal. Very often they are related to Saturn also. What you need to do is, first of all, accept it. Okay, right now this is life, nothing bad or scary in this, but I have to learn this efficiency. You really do. And this is the focus. Small steps, but regularly with a very good rhythm. And she lived my grandmother lived a pretty long life. Actually, nobody expected that she would be able, but it was really about this learning how to handle your own energy, and also so important to know your own limits. For Aries, this could be a really tough topic, especially if this energy is strong. If you also have a strong Mars, you are more in a fighting mode, in a battle mode. You are the strong one, the independent one, and you don't really like to slow things down. So, one of the important lessons here is to see your own limits. That's why fire people, Aries people, people with strong Mars, or generally with more fire energy, they're more predisposed to burn out because they don't want to see their limits until they really hit them. But when they hit them, they need time to recover. So this is something you can try to avoid, and especially with Saturn, but also Neptune. How can Neptune help in this situation? You may start intuitively sensing more some kind of boundaries or limits that you should not cross. First of all, focus on your health, your energy, and your actions, and see, are there things or areas where you are overdoing things, where you don't want to see your own limits? Because even if you have the strongest Mars and the strongest Aries energy, you might be much more energized than most people, but you also have some kind of limit. And the truth is that usually you live close to your limit. So it doesn't matter that it's so high. When you are very close to it, it may still be really bad when you don't respect this for yourself. So try to be more open for that. What are my own limits, physically, mentally, emotionally, in any way? And try to respect this more, to live more in alignment with this. And again, just like my grandmother, you can really find the rhythm in which you can do things more consistently. Doing things more consistently is a major theme for you this year because of Saturn. And also with Neptune, you may need, some time to feel those, to see. But what is the other side? It will be pretty much the opposite of this. You might be able to find also some kind of limits that are not real, or limits that you are putting in front of yourself, or things that you chose to do in a specific way or not to do. So basically, this can also help to kind of like dissolve some kind of boundaries or some kind of limitation that you might have put also on yourself. So one of the really interesting, again, not so easy conjunctions for sure, and even more important if you have planets or cusps of houses as well in the first few degrees of the sign, then this will be very important. And about Neptune, you are actually gonna feel something really supportive here because Neptune is not on its own. Neptune will be part of this beautiful bisextile, which will be present for us most of the year, especially the second half, especially after May, after Uranus gets to Gemini. It was end of April, so end of April, but mostly May and onwards. We will have this bisextile between Neptune in your first house, Pluto in Aquarius in your 11th house, and Uranus in Gemini in your third house. So first, 11, and third. And the focal point is in first house, basically. Yourself, your actions, your behavior, all of those things that we talked about. But you do get this energy coming also from Pluto and Uranus. And they are in 11th and third house, two air houses or houses of communication, ideas, people. So socializing will be an interesting topic during the year. From one side, when Saturn is in your first house, you might want to limit some kind of meaningless things in your life. But this may include also if you waste your time on some kind of relationships or friendships which are not leading anywhere, you might feel like you want to kind of like clear space. But what stays is usually more stable and more meaningful. And because Uranus and Pluto are in the social houses for you, it's a great time to concentrate more on your connections with other people. Everyday connections, people around you, friends, neighbors, co-workers, why not clients as well? Even though clients might be more of a different topic, but just people that surround you. And on the other side, people that you want to connect to, but in a different way, like where you want to feel the sense of belonging. And usually we get the sense of belonging when we share some kind of mutual interest. One thing I also wanted to share. Now I will share it because it makes sense. I'm starting a new project, which is totally Uranus 11th house related. It will be a Horary Astrology Club. So I will share more information on that, but basically um, you can join the club and get answers to your own questions for whatever you need to, and at the same time learn Horary astrology. So it will be like a community group experience. So that's something that I'm personally really happy about. So yeah, I will share very soon more information on that. But yeah, I have some big ideas. Like I want to create like a case library where I will also share my charts, like from my experience or from some clients or from the past. And I will show you, okay, here is the question. Let's try to find the answer. And then we will see, okay, and what was the actual answer from reality? So learning experience. So yeah, expect more information on that below the video. I will also put links. later. So anything which I just remembered of that because this is an example of a place where you may find such sense of belonging, where you meet with other people who share similar interests, values, um, or sometimes it could be about a cause. That's also possible. And in every case for you, this will be great. Again, third and 11th house are kind of like, sending this energy. The focus goes to first house. So your own initiative will be very important. I'm talking now about your process, not our club. Back to your year. So the initiative is on you, but it might include other people. It may include your friends. It may include some kind of social group you belong to. So I highly recommend you to focus on contacts with other people. It could be in person. Nowadays, it could be online, of course, especially with Aquarius. But this is something that can really, really help you. And the energy is also pretty active and masculine because all of the planets are in masculine signs. Uranus in Gemini, um, Pluto in Aquarius, and Neptune in Aries. So, masculine signs, first of all, of course, this is about some kind of bigger, more collective process that will be important for all of us. But the masculine energy suggests that it's about actions. Also, it's about doing something on your own, learning. Also amazing, especially with Uranus moving to your third house. Uranus was in Gemini for a little bit this year, 2025, and will move to Gemini the end of April 2026. And that's it. Like it's no longer moving backwards. So until the rest of the year and even longer, Uranus will be in your third house. So it's a great time, first of all, to make changes related to your surrounding area, the people you communicate with, the type of communication, and also anything that has to do with your mind, anything that will, inspire your mind. Usually, Uranus is about something interesting, something exciting, more extraordinary, kind of like out of the box. So you might want to also socialize and meet with such people, more interesting, more exciting, or motivated by something. The Uranus type of people, they always want to go somewhere. They are always, inspired by something, and this energy can be also very fun to be around. It's not a peaceful type of energy. It's more like bringing dynamic. So from this point of view, it's great to focus on new interests, or it could be old interests, but to kind of like really let your mind sink into this and explore something new, something exciting, to meet with new people as well. And at the same time, this may have a very transformative effect on your life. With Pluto in 11th house, also very interesting. 11th house is, actually, it's one of the complicated houses to understand. Yes, one thing is that it's about groups of people, friends, gatherings, clubs, all of those things. Yes, that's true. But 11th house is related also to something which is beyond the visible forms, shapes, beyond the material reality. And sometimes we say that it's related to the future. It's partly true, but it's mostly related to your ideals, your ideal of how you would like to live or who would you like to become. It's not exactly the same as goals. Goals is ninth house, but specifically your ideals. So with Pluto in this house, and especially with this bisextile, which will affect you most of the year, you may really get a deeper sense, of course, if you look in this direction, to find out more, okay, what is my ideal for life? And here, please don't mix things with perfectionism. It's not about perfect things. It's more about, that's the complicated thing, that when it's something so beyond the material shape and form, it's more difficult also to describe it with words, but I will try. It's something that inspires you, and you might maybe call it more like a dream, or something that you really wish to have in your life. But it sounds more general. It's not about like concrete things, like a car or a house. It's usually something about the way you experience your whole life. This is much more important than anything else. So you might think also from this perspective, and also to transform this, because Pluto is always bringing the opportunity for transformation. And sometimes we don't even ask ourselves those questions, but this time is a great opportunity for you to explore, okay, what is my ideal like? How would I like to live? But the hint here, try to describe things which are not related to material objects in your life, like I want to have a car, or this house, or this is great, but that's not the essence. Instead, try to describe more your ideal of experience in your life or in your future. So, kind of like, putting the foundations of a different future. And this might be something that will not materialize fully in 2026, because such deep processes, they could be long term. And but also what's the interesting part, that this is not about pursuing like a final point where you're supposed to get, which means that in the process right now, when you start looking in this direction, you can make the changes right away, some changes in the process. And this will play a huge role, again, especially with the focal point in your first house. So think about it. How can you, with your own actions, the first house, with your behavior, with the steps you are doing, with the way you manage your own energy, the way you plan your actions and your life, through those tools, how can you get closer to 11th house, to your ideal, to the experience of life that you want to have, to something that may feel inspiring, interesting, and might be, like a guiding light in your life. It's like, putting the foundations for the future you want to live, you want to experience. I think it's beautiful. And again, this bisextile is like a blessing. We shouldn't also look at this only through pink glasses, because the outer planets are the outer planets. They are always serious. They are always about really deep stuff. So the transformation is intense, and we shouldn't forget this. But yeah, I think that it could be amazing. Okay, let me see. What else do we have here? Jupiter. Jupiter, the great benefactor. Jupiter is actually very strong this year. Half of the year it's in Cancer, where it's exalted. After that, it will move to Leo, which is also a really comfortable sign, fire sign, very generous, very also spontaneous. So Jupiter is strong this year. But what is the interesting part? During the second half of the year, not only Jupiter moves to Leo, but also the South Node. Let me see. So the nodes are moving there from August. So Jupiter goes to Leo in July. The nodes, the South Node moves to Leo in August. So pretty much at the same time. We will feel this energy more in the second half of, or even the last quarter of the year, when the South Node and Jupiter will get to an actual conjunction. And this is complicated, contradictory, because Jupiter from one side is related to opportunities, to growth, expansion, having more of something. And the South Node on the other side is related to things that we need to let go of, things that we shouldn't stay really attached to. And somehow we will have to find a way to combine all of that. So it's very possible that we need to reconsider our own goals, where we want to grow, how we want to grow, and if we want to expand. So for you, this will be mostly in fifth house, which is the house of love, your romantic life, your kids, anything creative you might be doing, your free time. Just, you know, what's the most important about fifth house? It's kind of like the essence of life. Fifth house is the house which allows us to connect to life. So that's why it's so important, and it could be such a positive house. So first you will need to let go of something, kind of like, you know, to clear the space. The more you can clear the space, the more after that you can grow and expand and bring something new into your life. And this is interesting because it's in alignment with Saturn in your first house. Saturn in first house also likes to, you know, clear the extra, the unnecessary, to get rid of the waste. And the South Node in fifth house can also make it kind of like in a major way in your life. So if you're wasting your time on some kind of, that's a good point, some kind of entertainments which you know are also draining your energy. I think that nowadays this is such a huge topic, mostly through social media. For some people, let's say this could be, I don't know, like playing games, video games, things like that. But you may have your own things, which from one side may feel kind of addictive, you know, like you are used to that, or you are doing it a bit compulsively. So think about your pleasures. What brings you joy? And again, with Saturn in first house, try to be as honest as you can with yourself. An interesting way, if you're really enthusiastic about this, is to track this for a while. 1, 2 days a week, just to be very mindful. Every time you go into your phone, how much time do you spend on Instagram, for example? Or if you're watching TV shows or whatever you are doing, what are your pleasures? And then to honestly evaluate what kind of price are you paying for that. Maybe then you are tired, or your brain is not efficient, or foggy, or it could be also something else. Whatever it is, just be very honest with yourself about your guilty pleasures, about the things that you do, even though you know that. And they sound like fun, but you know that long term they are not really helping you, or maybe even short term. And with the South Node in fifth house, and again, Saturn in first, it's a great time to try to get rid of those, to really open up more space in your own life. Fifth house ultimately is about your connection to life. The more you can get rid of such waste, the more you can find, like space to enjoy life, or maybe to find something new that will be more constructive, more creative, will bring you more joy, or will be better for your health, whatever it is. And here is the thing with Jupiter also in the fifth house, you really have the chance also to bring something new into your life and to make it more meaningful, because Jupiter can bring this energy of something more meaningful. And we will have a trine between Saturn and Jupiter in the fire signs, so in Aries and Leo. So to start to initiate something which is more constructive, and at the same time it brings you pleasure, it brings you joy. You know that through this you are creating a better life for yourself. I can't imagine anything more positive than that. Or, it just sounds amazing. Let's put it this way. So, first, you clear the space. First, honesty. First is the honesty and making an honest audit. Okay, where am I right now? What do I do with my life and my energy? Then you realize, okay, this has to go, or I just want it to go. You open up the space, and then you will have more energy for more meaningful things. Personal example. Today is the day of personal examples, because recently I've been facing a lot with Saturn. Saturn was and will be again in conjunction with my moon, Mars, earlier with Jupiter. So I feel very close to Saturn right now. And how I use this energy. I realized that I'm wasting so much energy on my phone. And it's not that I get hooked for hours. I don't do that, but I do it very often, compulsively. Like, okay, let's check this email. Let's see on Instagram, or somebody texts me, and it was very compulsive. And intentionally, I stopped this. For example, now I will do it once a day and that's it. I need to do it because of work, of course, so I can't disconnect completely from social media, but I'm much more mindful. Why am I doing this? Like, is there anything meaningful now, or just happening out of nowhere? Same thing with Netflix. And honestly, I will tell you, it was so nice because it turned out that I have so much free, I would say, brain energy to put into other things that I actually will enjoy much more. So you need to look at that as a personal choice, not as a way to restrict yourself, make your life more difficult. If you do this from, this angle, most likely you will drop it. You won't be able to sustain it. But if you can see the benefit in this, that you are, with the South Node in fifth house, you can just let go of all the ways, or some of the ways in which you might be wasting your own life, not just your energy and, your time, but your life, because ultimately that's, our life. And with Jupiter and Saturn in this supportive combination, you can do something much more meaningful, which can also bring you results, something practical, something concrete, something you can, see and measure. So it's a very interesting combination, Jupiter and South Node. Before that, the first half of the year, Jupiter is still in your fourth house, which is a great time also to focus on your personal space, on your home, your relationship with your family, generally how your comfort, the comfort around yourself. That's a great way to use the energy. If you want to focus on some kind of property stuff, for some people, this might be a nice time to move or to get into a bigger space, could be possible as well, especially with Uranus in third house. So Uranus in third house, Jupiter in fourth house. If you happen to have also some planets there, or from those houses, the planets, I mean, Uranus and Jupiter are connecting to other natal planets in your chart, this could be a possibility for moving or sometimes even relocation. So could be something major for also the place where you live, possibly. More about the notes. So we mentioned basically the notes are changing signs in August. And until then, they are still in your 12th and 6th house. Yes, 12th and 6th house. So with the North Node in your 12th house during the first half of the year, some kind of inner processes also might be still unfolding, like, and this is interesting. So the North Node is in 12th house, Jupiter is in your 4th house during the first half of the year. So we can say that this part of the year is a bit more focused on your private life, on spending more time on your own, maybe preparing for something, maybe taking some time off. And the second half of 2026, when the South Node will move, the North Node will move to your 11th house, and Jupiter will move to 5th house, things might be more kind of like social for you. And generally, as we said, this is a theme for you because of also the bisextile, including the outer planets. But that's even stronger in the second half of the year. So yeah, kind of like, getting more in touch to life, but also people. That's the thing. With the North Node in 11th house, you can really grow more if you include other people. Again, we have to look from the other side, the South Node and Jupiter in your 5th house. In 5th house, we try to do things on our own. It's more about our own desire, our passion. This is our greatest motivation. In 11th house, it's we have the community, we have other people, and we will grow more if we find something we are passionate about, so something we love, because Jupiter is in 5th house, so something we are excited about. But at the same time, if we also include others, or if we are part of a group, or there is some kind of shared experience, because the North Node again will be in Aquarius for you in 11th house. So personal initiative is important, but at the same time to include others in whatever you are doing. And sometimes, it doesn't need to be something huge. It could be just, finding a friend who is also excited and wants to go to, let's say, yoga classes, or you want to do something else together. So it doesn't have to be, too complicated or anything like that. But if you make the experience shared, you will grow more. It will be more beneficial. You will also get more energy through that. Okay. Venus retrograde, more towards the end of the year. Let me see here are the details. So October, November. Venus will be retrograde in Scorpio and Libra, which for you is 8th and 7th house. So generally the interaction with other people. In 8th house, so the first half is more about shared resources, or could be financial stuff as well. And the second half is more about the actual relationship, the actual connection. So In your personal life, also, some things might be realigning, something from the past might come to your life, old relationships also. This is interesting because with Uranus and Pluto in your third and 11th house, which already kind of, activates the social interactions in a really significant way. And also at the end of the year, you have Venus retrograde in seventh house. This also shows that things in your interaction with others, in your relationships, need to change, need to be transformed. And also shows that you may need to let go of something which doesn't serve you or is pointless, meaningless. This always opens up the space for something new after that. So Venus in seventh house is important. And I decided also to include Lilith. Lilith is very, very specific. It's not a real planet, but it's more about kind of like the darker side or things that pop up from the subconscious mind. The general thing is that wherever Lilith is transiting your chart, this feels like something important. This feels like, something is happening there, but often there could be some kind of subconscious processes. So if we are mindful, I mean, if we realize that, okay, Lilith is here and we intentionally focus on that, there is a chance that we can recognize more things and they won't be so much in our blind zone. And Lilith during this year will be in Sagittarius, basically through the whole sign, and the first 15 degrees of Capricorn. So most of the time in your ninth house and approximately 1/3 of the time in your 10th house. And this is a great time to focus more on your goals, also the future. But I would say generally your attitude towards the world. Ninth house is, like this bigger perspective that we may have. And intentionally to focus on some kind of blind spots. Like, are there things that you don't pay attention to, but they are still affecting you? It could be about the so popular negative beliefs, for example. This would be great. Lilith in ninth house and working intentionally with your limiting beliefs sounds great. But first, you have to see that. And what is interesting about Lilith, the myth of Lilith is helping us a lot to understand the energy. There is a feeling of unfairness. The story of Lilith, where she is, the first woman, but she was betrayed, she was excluded, and so on. Her space, her place was taken away. It's a long story, but there is bitterness from this. And after that, she is like focused on revenge, on, things turn out in a different way. And with Lilith transiting our certain houses in our chart, we may try to focus on this, like in what way I may see things as unfair, or where do I want things to be fixed, where I feel like, I don't get what I deserve or something should be different. And it's always about some kind of inner process. So you may work with those inner frustrations or demands or feelings of unfairness and take things more in your own hands. Again, we shouldn't forget the theme of the year is this Saturn in your first house. Neptune as well, but Saturn is more obvious because it's a visible planet. And basically, Lilith will trine Saturn as well at the beginning of the year. So Yeah, actually, yeah, in the first quarter, something like that, they will have a trine. So you may also look from this perspective, like, do I see some kind of unfairness in my life? And then to try to explore, okay, what can I change here? Is there a part of this which is also my responsibility? So working with this shadow blind zone would be very beneficial. And approximately the last third of the year or so, Lilith will be in your 10th house. So this can bring more invisible things in your career, what you are doing socially, or what you are pursuing in life in general, or some interactions with authority figures. This can also come more to the surface, and again, you can see things that could be coming more from the subconscious, could be more like the blind zone. Lilith is very interesting. It really, like calls for our attention. So it's nice to keep an eye also on Lilith's transits and aspects. So that's the most important for 2026 for you. Big year, definitely a new beginning. Definitely, it sets the tone for something new. One more thing I want to add back to the beginning, back to Saturn and Neptune, is that when something gets to your sign, to your ascendant, or even if this is your sun sign, it also means that it's leaving your 12th house. So something is being completed and something new can start. And when Saturn is in 12th house, usually this is more difficult than when Saturn is in your first house. In first house, it's like, you see the day, the light is already here. In 12th house, you are more, still boiling in something, you need to release something. So often it may feel more challenging. So from this point of view, when something, even Saturn, moves to your first house, this is like a reset, like, okay, a new page, a new chapter. And Saturn takes 29, 30 years to get through the whole zodiac. So this is like a big reset. So a wonderful time to really focus on your new life that you would like to create for yourself. Could be very inspiring. And with Neptune in first house, also be open for some kind of support. For Aries, this may sound like a disaster. This may sound like, the worst thing. Don't tell me to depend on others or to rely on others. I'm joking, but not really. So, with the way the outer planets are positioned for you, Neptune in first, Uranus in third, Pluto in 11th, don't try to do everything on your own. Don't be afraid of including others, or even if it feels like, okay, but what if I depend on them? Or with Neptune in first house, vulnerability is also a big theme. And to open up to this when it, of course, it's always about, choosing who you will count on. That's very important. But learning to trust also is a big Neptune theme. So yeah, you might sense things from a different perspective. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask me. Aries sun. Yeah. Uranus in seventh house is also very dynamic. 17 degrees in Aries. You know that Saturn will get very close. It won't get to an absolutely exact conjunction. It won't get there. I will tell you the maximum. Saturn turns retrograde at 14 degrees and 45 minutes. So the 15th degree. That's the maximum it will get to during July. Then it turns retrograde and it will go back to the 8th degree, 7:56 minutes in December. So basically, you will feel Saturn more noticeably next year in 2027. But around the summer is the maximum when Saturn gets to closer to your sun. The ascendant is Pisces, Taurus is second house, which means that Aries is intercepted. Yeah, this is happening in your first house. You can totally consider it. Yeah. Mars in Scorpio. Wow, retrograde with Saturn. Yeah, interesting. For the moon, partly, yes. Yes, for the moon also, you may notice it. You need to adapt it a little bit, but it will apply more to the emotional life, to your personal life. But yeah, also. Um, I'm also working with something new, which is astrology guidance for the whole year. So if you are also interested in that, you can check it out or contact me for more information. But basically, this is also another thing that will be happening this year. So if you want this astrology guidance throughout the year, this is another thing. Also, Aries intercepted, and Aries Sun and Saturn. Oh, so it will be a Saturn return. Then for you, this is even bigger, like a total reset. Total. If you have intercepted houses, you can listen to both of the signs. Yeah, you can listen to both of the signs. The most precise is when you work with the degrees, when you check your own degrees and you check the timing, and that's the best option. But if you are just, want to get the general idea, then listen to both of them. So for personal interpretations, I really need to look at the whole chart. I would always recommend you to check if you have specific transits and aspects, to check all about those planets. So in which house they are, which houses they are ruling, what's their natal status. Only then you can get the full picture. If your second house is intercepted, then this is not changing the ascendant. Basically, you need the sign of the ascendant and the sun also. Yeah, other interceptions are not important for that specifically. All right, then. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a beautiful 2026. I will share more information about the Horary Astrology Club, which I'm really, really enthusiastic about. And also, yeah, the astrology guidance for 2026. So if you are interested, you are more than welcome to join us. Thank you. We will continue with our um, predictions for 2026. I will post the schedule soon. I mean, weekly. Thank you so much. So have a wonderful 2026.